Hello, I'm Kent, and today we're going to talk about riding the bevel. If you've been involved with wood turning for more than a couple minutes, you've heard the term riding the bevel. Some people also say floating the bevel. They essentially mean the same thing. Before we get into demonstrating this, I need to show you some of the parts of the bull gouge so that we're all on the same page. The bevel, which we're going to be dealing with primarily today, is this big flat surface that wraps around the bull gouge that's under the cutting edge. The cutting edge is the sharp knife-like edge that's a U shape along the front of the bull gouge. Bevel is underneath that, and underneath the bevel is the heel. These are the three components we're going to be dealing with most today. Also, the hollowed out area in the center of the bull gouge right here is called the flute. The flute's designed to help move shavings away as you cut. So, what is riding the bevel? What does that mean? Okay. Well, think of like all of our woodworking tools that we use elsewhere. I'm looking at the bandsaw over here. There's a fence on the bandsaw. There's a fence on the table saw. A fence on a table saw is kind of a guide. And in many ways, that's what the bevel is to the bull gouge. It's a guide to help us make a clean parallel cut. The biggest takeaway from this video is the bevel edge, when you present it to the surface that you're going to be cutting, needs to be parallel to where the final cut will be. And we're going to get into that right now. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to make a straight face cut across the surface of this blank. In order for this cut to be smooth and straight, I need to line up the edge of the bull gouge and make it parallel to the surface of this blank. If you see here, I'm holding it very close to it. It's parallel right there. I don't want it turned out here. If I have it turned out, it's just going to be a heel rub. If I turn it in, it's gonna ride just on the surface of the tip, and that's going to give me all kinds of tool marks, and it's going to create a bad effect. And we'll get into that. I'm going to show you some more details of that in a second. Well, let me show you the proper technique. Instead of pushing into the wood, what I'm doing is I'm actually pushing down onto the tool rest. And I have the bull gouge pointed into the direction of the cut. This is going to be a push cut going to the center. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a 90-degree angle. I'm going to start a little edge here. Let that begin so I don't get kicked back. And then I'm just going to proceed forward with the bull gouge. Notice how the bevel is parallel to the cut surface at all times. Now I can rotate the tool and open up the flute while keeping the bevel parallel to the surface. This is riding the bevel. So the whole time that bevel is parallel with the surface, that's riding the bevel. The cutting edge is engaged and removing material in front of the bevel while the bevel is level. It's that simple. Now if we were to make a push cut going out the other way to start shaping the bottom of this bowl, I'm going to want those shapes to be curved. So I'm going to start presenting the tool in the direction of which I want it to go. So this is going to dig into the wood a little bit, which is fine. Where the bevel goes is the shape that's going to be created with the tool. Now, let's look at some problems we have and where riding the bevel becomes difficult, or where you'll see issues while you're riding the bevel. Okay, there's essentially three ways you can present the bull gouge. The correct way, which is riding the bevel, which we talked about, you could have it so you're riding the heel, and that's really not doing anything. If you press into the wood, you're going to burnish the wood. I'll show you. You can see those little marks that were just made. That was made by the heel. And that's if you're behind the bevel and you're pushing on the heel. Now we have the The other option is to go forward of riding the bevel and be off of the bevel so that just the tip of the tool is touching. And this is what happens when that occurs. The tool will dig in and it doesn't have the guidance of the bevel behind it, so you're going to get tool marks that go across there. And that's a real common thing, especially for beginners, to have, where they're off of the bevel and they're on the tip of the bowl gouge and trying to push the bowl gouge across the surface and make it smooth. And it's impossible to do because that little dinky tip, guided just by your hands and your forward motion, is not going to be straight. It requires the flat edge of the bevel being parallel with the surface in order for that cut to be smooth. Now let me go ahead and make a bevel riding cut here so you can see. And when you start a cut like this, a lot of tendencies, if you have the gouge pushed open like this, it'll kick back. See that kick back? The reason that is occurring, it's pretty simple when you think about this. This is a side grain mounted bowl blank, which means the grain of the wood is running through it this way. Up here and on the ends are the end grain. Well, that grain comes around, and what it's doing is essentially sweeping and pushing the bowl gouge back as you introduce it. So what you want to do, instead of being on the tip like that, we want to be 90-degree angle. Let's go ahead and do this properly. So you're going to be right at a 90-degree angle. Again, the bevel is going to be parallel to the surface, and then just let the very edge of that start a little groove or a shelf, and then start moving forward once a little edge has been created. All right, there's our edge. Now I'm going to push forward. At this point, I don't have to stay at 90 degrees. I can rotate the flute open a little bit. And that was pretty shallow, but let me go ahead and make another cut here. You can see how that's turning out a lot smoother, and the bevel is parallel to the surface that's being cut. Okay. You can see this is what happens when you're on the tip of the bowl gouge right here, is you're not making a smooth cut, and you're not underneath that grain and cutting it out perfectly. Let's take another look at that from a different angle. Here I'm going to demonstrate the three possibilities again up close. You could have the heel rubbing. You can see the bevel is not parallel to the surface of the bowl blank. Or you could have the tip touching, and here again you can see that the bevel is not parallel with the surface. If the tip is touching, you have no guidance. That tip is just going to bounce across the surface and leave all kinds of nasty tool marks. So what you want is you want to start out here on the edge. Now I've got the bowl gouge angled at about a 90 degrees facing into the cut. I'm just going to start a little ledge, and then I'm going to proceed forward. My pressure is down on the tool rest, not into the wood. I came out of that cut. Now the reason I came out of that cut is I let the tip of the bowl gouge start moving away from parallel and coming forward. And that's why it basically disengaged from the cut. So I can pick that up again over here simply by momentarily pushing the tip into the wood. So now the bevel isn't quite level, but I'm going to bring it back to level or ride it again. So essentially we have the ability to pivot the bowl gouge from heel to bevel to tip. And we want to be on that bevel, which means making the bevel parallel to the cutting surface that we're going to do. That's what riding the bevel really means.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Actually, more importantly, I hope that it's been beneficial to you to help you understand what riding the bevel is all about. That's why I'm doing all this, is to help you understand and learn how to turn wood bowls.
I love turning wood bowls, and I'm trying to share that love with you, and so you can have the same wonderful experience of making the wood bowls that you want to make. I've got a great website that's totally dedicated to turning wood bowls called turnawoodbowl.com. If you haven't checked that out yet, go check that out. There's tons of articles there and tons of great information to help you out. And if you like this video, do me a big favor, click the like button, leave a comment below if you'd like, but more importantly, also subscribe to my channel. I'm going to have lots more videos coming your way and lots more information and tips like this to help you out and help you learn how to turn wood bowls. So until next time, happy turning.